Creating a digital first organization. Now, if there are any doubts on the needs of organizations to go digital, the events of 2020 decisively ended that debate. It's imperative for companies to take the digital first approach to business to survive in the post pandemic world. But what does it really mean to be a digital first organization? Can traditionally offline bricks and mortars and paper based businesses transition to a digital first way of doing business? Is going digital only cool apps or an optimized e-commerce website, or is it a mindship change to embrace a potentially radical and intentionally permanent change in the way a business works? To talk about this very important issue of creating a digital first organization, please welcome our speakers. This session is going to be moderated by Dr. Rizwan Ahmed, Chief Technology Officer, DelaPlex Software. Please also welcome our other speakers on this panel discussion: Priyanka Khanna, Joint COO, Shivaami Cloud Services; Meheriar Patel, Group CIO, Jeena and Company; Vivek Ahuja, Director IDEMIA and India, IDEMIA; Rupesh, Nain, Chief Information Officer, Natural Resources, Adani Group; and Avinash, Velhal, CIO, Growing Market, ATOS Global ID Solutions and Services. A warm welcome to all of you, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Ahmed to take this discussion forward.
Thank you so much, Anisha. I hope I'm audible to you.
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to all the distinguished guests, all the speakers and panelists, and all my industry colleagues, delegates, and participants. What an amazing event it has been so far, considering all the keynote speeches, amazing panel discussions on relevant digital transformation journeys. And now for this interesting panel discussion on topic of creating digital first organization, we have a great lineup of experts, speakers from diverse industry backgrounds. When the pandemic first hit us all, were you and your leadership team scrambling on to find that your business continuity plans were insufficient? Many companies quickly realized how unprepared they were to operate as a fully digital first organization. If I need to give you a few examples, these organizations could not respond to their customers who needed digital channels with zero touch interactions considering the new normal. Their technology infrastructure did not easily support remote access to their applications and data. They also did not enable and train their employees and workforce on how to work and collaborate remotely. More importantly, their organizational structure did not enable the agility to respond and adopt to new ways of operating the business quickly. Companies that fared better are those that had already embarked on a digital transformation prior to the pandemic has hit us all. Because these organizations already understood that customers and employees prefer multiple channels of engagements, including a strong and integrated digital experience. So the path forward is very clear. To survive and thrive, companies must transform their organization into a digital first company. Many companies strive to be digital first, but they all may be focused more on implementing digital technologies than on creating a holistic digital organization. And that's what this panel is going to dwell upon. And we'll try to give you the secret formula, right? How to build a digital first organization. So now let's involve our eminent panelists for sharing their personal experiences and advice on creating a digital first organization. So I'll start with Vivek. Vivek, what defines a digital first organization according to you? What are the various characteristics of a successful digital first organization? Vivek, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
So from my point of view, a digital first organization has to be based without a monolithic process, old process of brick and mortar. And as it's a general trend, startups are easy to adapt to digital first. So if I go a bit on the definition on how I would define a digital first organization, it's an organization which has a vision and strategy focused on the customer using all the digital technologies on hand. So whether it's their own operating model, it's their internal processes, it's how they transact business, and it's about the customer experience. The easiest way for a customer experience is usually today your mobile device or using a online presence. So the customer experience has also to be a lot to do with digital, especially you have to look at things like location, what device they use, the profiling of those devices, and there would be other debatable topics like privacy and how we collect data. But all of this comes, in my view, as part of the digital first organization. So when I talk about the operating model, the internal processes, how the company thinks, how the product is defined, everything has to be built on a digital model rather than looking at a paper process or a regular workflow which involves a lot of signatures and traveling. With digital, you just eliminate all of that. Like doctor, you mentioned aptly that those organizations in the pandemic were able to quickly adapt because they had digital background or digital first thinking. That's very true. A lot of people were left like, how can we run our business without a digital option? And there are a lot of innovations also. People came from those kind of models and they quickly adapted. So in my definition, digital first is not that only a startup can do it. Other companies can do it, but you need to have a mindset. And it's all about from what flows from the top. How open are you for innovation? How open are you to listen to what your people tell you, what your new millennials who work for you, or what your customer asks? So these are in broad, according to me, how you would define a digital first organization. But if I were to sum it up, it's about customer experience, it's people, your process, your information, and how you use technology. I think that's from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. I think the experience you talked about, right, for being digital first, right, and the relevant characteristics, they are very key here. And one thing which we all need to understand, right, all our businesses need to be new in the new normal, need to be more agile and nimble. And that's why the characteristics what you defined here, right, to be successful as a digital first organization is very, very critical. Now let's move to Avinash. Avinash, according to you, why being digital first is a new normal post pandemic?
Okay, thanks, Dr. Rizwan. If you look at, we all have gone through all the 4 phases of during the pandemic. The first one is recovering from it. Second is restarting our operations. Third is realigning in the new normal, what is there. And maybe we'll be moving on or hardly in transit to the re-innovate phase. So when you're looking at a digital first, I mean, it's a complete new landscape ecosystem which has come up after post-pandemic. So if you look at 18 months back, what was business as usual has completely changed in today's context. And that is happening because of all this new collaboration, knowledge management, remote working things have come in place. So primarily what has happened is you need to re-architect not only a business, but also your IT infrastructure and your support processes, your customer interactions. It's a completely different way of operating things. I won't say you rip and replace everything, but nearly 60 to 70% of all your enterprise process, your architecture is gone for a toss. So if I look at a help desk system, I mean, it's now no more perimeterized in an office. It gets calls from anywhere. If you look at your knock centers, they are totally, if I say destroyed, if I say. So what is happening is in the new normal, you need to now, we have virtualized networks, we have virtualized servers. Now it's time to virtualize the new business. So the new digital business virtualization is the new norm in the new digital first economy. Now, when I look at digital business virtualization, doesn't mean automating some of the things here and there or digitalizing some of the aspects. It is a complete holistic approach to across all your customer processes, your internal processes, your technology landscape, your business landscape, and how are you doing business? Like, are you offering looking data as a key importance and trying to get data into your business in trying to making a shared economy. So it's just not having a e-commerce transaction and find end-to-end process. It's more important that what is the end-to-end process for all your customer touch points, internal touch points. So in the new normal, the digital business first is important for you, if to enhance your branding. If you're not there, your company is not there. So you have to have a branding impact on that. You need to have an operational range if you're trying to expand operations in new areas and geography. Because today, if you look at selling is not happening only in a region, it's across. Recruitment, manpower, human is coming across. Now we are remotely onboarding and remotely separating employees. So your operational range has gone up. You're boosting your security protection parameters because it's no more a perimeterized environment. In a new digital first, you need to look at the complete security aspect right from an employee endpoint to the customer touch points. Look at the data access. You're now going to get flooded with so much of data because you have to do business on e-commerce and social media platforms, which is much data intensive and data pervasive in that fact. So you need to really look at your data in the digital first, and look at how are you tracking your employees. Like they are now global employees. They are like now skill is more important than the headcount. So those all aspects have made a change today in a digital first economy in the post pandemic, and we really need to take care of all these things.
Thank you, Avinash, for sharing that perspective, right? If I may sum up, right, it's not an option anymore, right? If the business needs to survive, we all need to utilize digital channel. And as an organization, we need to be digital first. Otherwise, we can't survive in this post-pandemic world if we need to do our business as usual, right? And provide all our services through various digital channels. So
Sure.
Thanks for providing those insights. Now let's move to Meheriar Patel. What are the key steps, according to you, in building a digital first organization? Because this is something which is a very crucial thing everyone must be thinking right now, right? How do we build a digital first organization?
So thanks, Rizwan. I think great inputs from Vivek and Avinash, great insights. So if you look at it, 87% believe in digital technologies that will disrupt their industry. And 44% of these feel adequately prepared for disruptions projected to cover in their industry due to digital trends. Having said that, I think to survive in the digital world, business must learn to see things differently, do things differently, and deliver things differently. I think that is very, very important for all of us. This is the digital age. Everything about business is transforming. But before you can know where you are going, you need to understand where you are. Basically, you need to take a step back and see that what are the nuances which you run in your organization, where are you in this journey, and then you can always assess and say that this is the digital maturity that you are in. So having said that, how digital could be a game changer? I think today that focus is going to be there for every industry and every corporates that run the digital landscape. So when I say that, what is the game changers? So we are talking about emergence of ecosystems. New ecosystems accessible through digital channels reduce switching costs, reduce barriers to digital entry, reduce ownerships and assets and infrastructure, decoupled value chains, and obviously you're talking about new entrants. When I talk about Rizwan, especially on the digital game changer today, businesses are coming to the IT department or the digital solution team where they say that I want this solution to be implemented, and the first finger points towards this team who makes it happen. I think that is very, very important to know. The other parts which are very, very important is that what are the tools that needs to enable the digital transformation? Digital transformation cannot happen just like that. I think it's a journey and there are steps towards those journeys. So you talk about industry first standards, you're talking about maturity that could be copied, you're talking about similar situations in the same industry, you're talking about two business models which are similar, but there could be nuances in game changers in those two models. You're talking about impactful transformation as a project, as an investment. You're talking about goals and plans, and both short term and long term, you're talking about transformation journey. So I think a tool for maturity in terms of a customer, organization culture, strategy, operations, and technologies, these goes hand in hand to provide a seamless digital maturity model. Having said that, I spoke about the 5 key important pan-organization digital maturity participants. These are the customers, the strategy that you plan, the technology, operations, and obviously the organization and culture. So when I talk about how does a digital maturity model enable digital transformation, today we understand that digital transformation is a journey involving a complex ecosystem. The DMM strategy that you try to do builds in, identifies the gaps, establishes the key areas to focus and where to start. It does not replace an overarching transformation framework, which probably Avinash just spoke about. And I think I conclude with him on that particular part, that today startups do a great work in terms of digital transformation and maturity model. And why does a legacy company do not do that? So I think that is something that you need to assess and understand where and how to deliver. So when I talk about clear steps of delivery, I think it's the imagination and imagine where your company is, how to deliver those priorities, and then obviously run and deploy these digital success mechanisms for your company, which is very, very important. So I think, Rizwan, having said that, today organizations are looking at this digital model, which can be a game changer for your setups. And there is a great amount of learnings which can be done internally and external, and there could be partners who can participate in this journey to help you do this. And that's very, very important. Over to you, Rizwan.
Thank you so much for that insightful details, right, in terms of how we should start our digital first organization building exercise, right, and more importantly, talking about digital maturity model, right, in a way which helps you assess in terms of where your organization is, right, where the gaps are and what your business needs are, so that you can transform using those 5 key stakeholders and steps which you just described. That is something which is the key here, right, for being an established organization which is trying to become digital first, if they are not already, or even a startup, right, if they're starting up new afresh, right, and they want to be digital first. So that is something which is very important, and thanks for highlighting on that. One request to all the audience, we have a great set of experienced panelists here. If you have any questions, please use the questions box in your windows, and maybe post your questions so that towards the end we can take some of your questions and maybe discuss those as part of this panel. Now let's move to Rupesh. Nain. Rupesh, I have a very, very pertinent question for you, right, which is something which everyone would like to know from your experience, right? You know, generally you heard the previous speaker say that this digital first organization building is more like a journey, right? It's not something which you can do without failing. So my question to you, Rupesh, is what were the lessons learned by you, or maybe challenges faced by you when you were doing this transformation, or maybe what are your suggestions considering your prior experience?
Okay, thanks. Very good question. So typically in terms of challenges, there are manifold challenges. And these challenges vary organization to organization and the kind of transformation you are trying to Hello?
Yeah, Rupesh, we can hear you now. Possibly we lost you for a bit.
Yeah. So sorry. So what I was saying, so it depends upon the organization to organization, because maturity level of organizations vary in terms of the digital transformation. Some are in the very advanced stages and some have just started, or some are in the middle of the journey. But typically, apart from the technical perspectives of challenges, these two elements, one of trust and one of culture, are very, very pertinent. And I believe with most of the organizations, these two elements impact a lot. First, on the trust side, if you see, whenever such kind of a transformation journey is started, initially to start with, even in the IT departments of the organization or within the business, people start thinking once the automation kind of things will happen, and they are try to understand that, okay, how their jobs can be impacted by that. So what exactly we will do in the longer run. So that is one apprehension. If you take typically the case of a normal manufacturing excellence system, then at the shop floor, people feel that kind of threat. Similarly, in other industries, depending upon the kind of industry and the kind of work a particular individual is working, they get threatened by that. So that is one piece. Second, on the ecosystem side, we have partner ecosystem.
Okay, it looks like we are having some technical issues as far as Rupesh is considered. Does any of the other panelists want to take it up? Rupesh, are you back?
Again, I believe there was a disruption. So
No worries. Please continue.
So yeah, if this time around it will be there, then maybe we can continue with other things. So point is on the second piece, which I was referring to, the ecosystem. So like you have, take example of automotive, then you have the dealer ecosystem. So people get threatened that, okay, if we are going to digitize and we are directly reaching to customer, then this ecosystem will be impacted badly. So these elements wherein we have to make partner these people in our journey, because unless until these are fully aligned to the overall strategy and part of the whole ecosystem, then this digital transformation will not happen. So this is typically one area. Second, on the culture side, so as we just discussed and some of the fellow panelists have shared, in the startup ecosystem, they are born digital. So from day one, what they're thinking, their approach, all the people are digital native. In the traditional organizations, that culture change has to be there. So in culture, first, we have to understand why we are getting into digital. And people have to understand, if we will not go digital, then we will not be in the business anymore. So that kind of a thing has to be there. Second, the change management. So it is not only you have to give message, but you have to make all these people your partners. And for that, you have to lead the change management part activity. Lastly, but not the least, is again, once the trust is there, change management process has started, and we have clubbed all these people with the journey, then we have to celebrate this change. So everybody should feel part of this change, and they should feel that, okay, yes, in my area, whatever activity I was doing earlier, now I am doing more qualitative work, or my value addition to the whole organization objective is enhanced. So everybody should see a win-win for themselves also. One is at the organization level. Second, at the individual level also, people should feel that yes, whatever initiative has been taken, that is in their own interest as well. Unless until people see their own value addition or upliftment, then generally you don't get the kind of attention, the kind of focus, and the kind of partnership, their involvement, that is not there. So if you are able to handle these two pieces, then third is mainly on the technology side, and very good technologies are already available. Depending upon the business case, you can choose the technology. And even on technology partner, again, I will say third could be selection of the right partner. So right partner who understands your business, not only the technology, and understands why you are going to get ahead with this particular initiative. So if these three things are taken care of, I believe most of the digital transformations will be successful. And our success rates will increase dramatically.
Thank you, Rupesh, and thanks for giving key insights, right, and how to be successful, right, on some of these initiatives, and maybe key learnings, right, which you just talked about. This is very important. And one thing which clearly stands out here, we need to create the digital first approach by keeping our people in mind, right, be our internal employees as well as our customers, and their inclusion around our processes is very, very important, as we heard Rupesh talking about. So that is very, very important, as I'm seeing. Maybe I would like to again ask other panelists, right, if they have any more suggestions, right, in terms of any challenges or any recommendations they have, because this is something which is very pertinent. We all are possibly trying a lot of things for the first time, right? So if you have any more suggestions, Avinash, you want to take this?
Yeah. See, the major challenge today for us, especially the IT community, is the complete re-architecture of your enterprise, because the earlier architecture was based on a typical perimeterized office kind of environment. Remote working was hardly there, or minimalistic kind of scenario. Security was there, but not in so much of a concern. But if you look at today's context, we need to look at the collaboration. We need to look at how am I going to reach across so many individual offices across the country placed very well. So you need to really look at your IT architecture. Business architecture definitely has to change, but your IT architecture needs to revamp. And are you prepared for that? And in the today's context, with the challenges on the expenses, challenges of skill sets which you have to run those new topics like containerization, microservices, or maybe edge computing, skill sets are not available. AI, ML are okay, of course, traditional run of the mill. But have we really looked at this challenge of what is my architecture today and what I need to rip and replace? What is the cost I'm going to have? What is the benefit I want to show? Is my business going to be ready for digitalization if my old architecture is not refreshed or replaced? Those things are key questions. How much of your legacy systems is going to move on to cloud native applications? Those are the challenges today. So these are the major challenges which are coming up, apart from all the topics which have been spoken of.
Thank you so much, Avinash. I think you brought up a very good and pertinent points, and I do a few more follow-up questions on that, right? So I'll reserve that for future when we come on some of those things, right? But one thing which I clearly understand is skills, finding the right team, right? If you don't have the right team, you might not be able to execute on your plans. Okay, I see Meheriar want to add to this. I mean,
please. I have just 2-3 lines on what Avinash added. See, I think the point here is becoming very, very clear. The business demands are changing.
Right.
See, when the business demand changes, the way you have implemented technology will not be the same. How you can proceed further with.
Right.
I think that has to transform itself to cater to the new business demands. I think that is very, very important. Now, another point is the people part is very, very important in this transformation journey. And the people part could be a situation of a mixed. There are certain drivers who could be internally. There could be certain situation which can outsource, collaborate, and also take help from external people who are knowledgeable, who also can guide properly. I think that is my point of view. I just don't want to continue this.
I think that's a very important point, right? In a way, partner with key people with the relevant expertise, because a lot of these digital technologies are new, right? And that brings me to a very, very important question, right? Which I would like to ask Priyanka, right? Being an expert. So Priyanka, right? What are the key technologies, right? According to you, which can be used for building a digital first organization, right? We had some touch points, but we would like to hear from you, right, in as much as details, right? And what is the secret sauce here?
Thanks, Dr. Rizwan. First, I would like to thank everyone, my colleagues and everyone who has joined me for this session today. When you talk about technology, yes, there are the key sources for the technology when it comes to It comes to your email, it comes to everything, for moving your all the technologies on the cloud. You just name it and you can take anything. You just need an idea for it, and I think people are doing it brilliantly. As everyone spoke about, startups are really going crazy. मतलब आपको आज you have to, आपको अपने पहने हुए कपड़े बेचने हैं तो आज वो भी बिक सकते हैं, but बस आपको एक आइडिया चाहिए. So that's what I can say about the key tools are, I think, email, and then using different kind of tools which are available. Today we all are meeting virtually. When earlier never panel discussions used to have online, we used to meet in person and have these panel discussions. This is a tool. This is the beauty of digitalization, what we are using today, and we all are together and we are still talking after the post pandemic. Everything has changed for us. So a lot of tools are helping us grow in digitalization.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Are other panelists interested to add to the tools and technology list, considering their experience? Vivek, you want to go?
Yeah, so just to add, sorry, there are so many new ideas with people. Recently, a data center company started very recently out of the blue, and they have started to offer services which nobody even thought of would be over the cloud. And I mean, you want desktop backup, you want anything, just name it. We will give you a SOC, we will give you antivirus, we'll give you anything that you want over the cloud. So I mean, for startups, it's so easy. They don't need to set up their own infrastructure. They don't need to do anything. Even existing organizations, large conglomerates who have set up a lot of things, are now migrating, saying, why should we continue to pay such large, complex technologies? Then, like some people rightly mentioned, keeping the people trained on new technologies. It's a big challenge, especially in the last 6 months. Some IT services companies have had some good contracts, and I think all of us have had the pinch. So with this kind of a offering, I mean, everything is available on the tap. So I just wanted to add that.
No, agreed. I think in terms of doing our digital transformations and building our digital first organizations, we are seeing plethora of technologies and tools which are being offered, right, by different providers, a lot of innovation which is coming in, right? So it's not that anymore that, okay, you need to build everything from scratch. You could basically take a lot of pieces which are available as building blocks, integrate together, right? And maybe build a solution, right, which is unique to you as an innovation, which is very, very customer centric and a specific business use case you might be having, and that could be easily done by you. So thank you, Vivek. Thanks for that addition. I see Priyanka wants to add something. Please go ahead, Priyanka.
I would like to add a point to everyone's, when it comes to digital transformation, I think choosing a right partner to make you do that in this digital world is also one of the important tool. Technology, yes, but at the same time, hand in hand, the partner selection, the expertise, what we take from the external people available with us, that all matters. And yes, then we are ready to do the digitalization all over the organization in any industry, you name it.
Thank you, Priyanka.
Just to add,
Yeah.
see, today, if you're looking at digitalization and in the kind of a remote environment, more of edge computing has come into place. So you have to take the challenges of latency, look at the aspect of reducing your load coming back to your cloud, and see how we can do it. So that is being catered through edge computing. So in that case, focus is in tools like serverless computing, in-memory processing are taking shape as of now. If you really look at knowledge management and collaboration, the landscape is completely changing and revamping. That's where a lot of tools are coming in, where you can build your knowledge base and provide services to your sales team, your customers, or your internal workforces. If you really look at toolings in terms of your remote workforce management, in terms of employee services, his attendance management, his expense management, those are the typical tools which were earlier in office, were in paper and this thing, are moved on to onto online kind of environment, which is pretty important, because if I have to claim my expenses sitting at home, it's becoming a challenge if I have to do it in an earlier process. So all these things are making a change. And the last part is, like, today when you are looking at cloudifying, going from 2.3 3.0, it's important that how much resources your capacity utilization is coming in. how are you managing it? So the AI ML operations to IT ops has become very critical, wherein it automatically looks at optimizing your resource management and capacities and predicting them. So these are some tools which came to my mind.
Absolutely, Avinash. I think you brought up a plethora.
You're on mute, I think. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you brought up a plethora of technology tools, right? And maybe the right way of doing it, which is necessary whenever we are trying to build these digital first initiatives. So thanks for sharing those additional details. Now I'll go back to Vivek, right? I think one question which generally all the audience would like to know, right, is what benefits can be achieved after we become a digital first organization? Because this is something which our stakeholders, maybe investors or business owners also want. At the same time, maybe people who are listening to this conversation and they want to join this bandwagon, right, and become digital first. What benefits they can basically achieve when they become a digital first organization?
Okay, so Dr. Rizwan, I think I'll just uh, add a part to your question. When we talk about benefits, we'll also have beneficiaries, like you mentioned, stakeholders, investors. So definitely they are the beneficiaries, but also the customers and the employees are huge beneficiaries in a digital first organization. I've seen some organizations, again, I keep on going back to examples of startups because they have done things that we really couldn't think of. So they have built their platforms around something which usually the traditional industry might not have even thought about. Again, for them, the objective was not how can we get more funding or how can we grow our own business, but the question was how do we solve this problem for our customer? So customer centric and employee centric, they're both the things which I think are very true, and we need to think about it before we go to the benefits. From my point of view, the benefits, if I look at it, for the investors, of course, it's more money, a better business, building a larger business. But for the customers, they have a different experience. It's an experience which in a traditional industry, you can't capture all the data points. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of data that you get in a digital first, which will have a good experience for the customer, more customized, personalized experience for them. The business model can be rotated fully around the customer. It could be a B2B or a B2C. I mean, you can have a business model where whatever type of customer comes in and you can suddenly change your entire process. Otherwise, in a traditional way, you might have to say, okay, this is my large account manager, this is my medium business account manager, this is my SMB account manager. Here, it's nothing like that, because it could be a virtual person you see over a video call, like Priyanka mentioned. You see over a video call and you don't know what his background is, but suddenly he's your account manager now and he treats you like the king. Digital has made it so much easier. The processes to purchase items, whether it's for a B2B or a B2C, is so much more simpler in a digital first organization process. It accelerates your innovation cycles because you're directly in touch with the customers and you get the data feedback quickly. You don't have to wait, okay, it will go from sales to operations. Operations will find a problem and they'll say, okay, this is what we need, and they'll go back to R&D. Here it's cut across all those red lines. The employees feel more productive because the employees don't have to do those manual tasks over and over. They don't feel that they're doing mind-numbing tasks. So a lot of automation can help in that way, and the employees are happier. When the employees are happier, they think more about the company, about the customer, about how they can help, and ultimately it helps the organization grow. I think at the last, I would just like to sum it up saying, if a business is a digital laggard in a way, it will wipe out very soon. I mean, that's the only way forward. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Absolutely, Vivek. I think those are some very, very important points, as I'm hearing, right? The way you just described. When we have digital first organization, almost everyone is a winner, right? Be your investors and stakeholders, be your customers, and more importantly, your employees and associates, right? That is what we are trying to create, like a holistic environment, right? So that everyone is able to use the digital experience, and we basically do everything differently, right? Which makes their maybe part, right, exciting and maybe something which is giving them more kind of day-to-day happiness and value, right? What everyone is looking at. I would request maybe if other panelists have any more additions to this in terms of the value or benefits what we get in terms of becoming digital first. I know Vivek has covered most of the points, but if anyone has maybe any more inputs, right, that would be great.
Okay. Basically, you metamorphose your enterprise from an earlier caterpillar to a butterfly, especially if you adopt the entire true digitalization process. Because you have been doing business in traditional form, the new forms require to be more focused on what data you have, how are you looking at data, what is the decision matrix, how are you categorizing data. So those will give you tremendous insight to do your business remodeling. That's a big benefit of going for digitalization. So that really gives an input to really see what has been the real important aspect. It also gives an opportunity from a product to a service kind of a path you can adopt when you're going through a first digital first organization. And you look at even your enterprise resources or your people, they go through a big change when they adopt new skills, new way of working. It's a definitely progress, because if you are a traditional person, you are no more into the bandwagon, you get dropped off. So net your business is also optimizing. So those are the first few things which I observe.
Absolutely, Avinash. You made a very good and pertinent point, right? The whole business, when it becomes digital first, it is data driven, right? So you're collecting all the right data about your business. And based on that data points, you're able to make more appropriate business decisions and maybe drive your company to success, and maybe just not success for your company, success for your customers and everyone who is involved in the whole process. So thanks for that additional insights on that. Now I'll move to a very pertinent question, right? Which generally even we are observing right now, right? That in a way, every organization is trying to become a digital first organization, but what it takes is, as we heard earlier, right? We need to have a right digital culture. If you don't have the right digital culture, maybe we will not be able to build the right digital first organization. So I'll go back to Meheriar on this, and maybe what's your suggestions, right, in a way how we should build the right digital culture so that we can have the proper digital first organization.
Right. Thanks, Rizwan. I think the point which I made is the people are the driving force, right? And when people comes into picture, culture is first. So digital culture and why it should matter to all of us is very important. For generations, our understandings of the term culture has been synergy of underlying beliefs, assumptions, values, norms, habits, symbols, and languages which define and characterizes a group, right? This definition is shifted significantly because of the advent of digital. And I think digital today is the simplest word, but the marriage is between people and technology. Digital technology is changing the environment around us is also, and we further use technology to accommodate the demands of this changing environment is there where the culture comes into picture. So in other terms, disruptions from the emergence of digital technologies as accelerating our pace of life and work. To adopt, we need to innovate and involve. I think that is very important for us to understand. And when you're talking about no digital transformation is complete without cultivating a thriving digital culture, because it's the people who matter, and when they believe certain things to be delivered, I think nothing is stopping that. The reality, however, is a successful digital transformation is a result of three elements which we need to look at as digital technologies, number one, digital leaderships and the driving force, and the most important, digital culture, which I just spoke about multiple number of times. So I think when we talk about digital culture, we are talking about people following the right approach, collaborating with teams, looking at nuances, details in terms of delivery. And I think it's a change management process, which is also very important, Rizwan. I think basically the mindset has been EDP, IT driven, has now moved into a digital driven approach. So I think the mindset and a change management where a person matures from a model which was earlier legacy driven to the new digital driven model is also going to be very, very important. So one of the things is unlock unforeseen value, which is the driving force. Deliver to customers things beyond their expectations. I think that is something which is going to come in. One success factor which you can deliver can be replicated into new models that you will deliver on digitalization. So I think the future is innovation. When you're talking about digitization, you're talking about innovation. So innovative culture, mindset is also very, very strong. And today when we're talking about empowering people, when you're saying you come up with ideas, these ideas ultimately culminate into innovation and then sense to business with technology driven approach. I think, Rizwan, that is very, very important. So some of these points are so collective in terms of people talking to each other and saying that culture today is the de facto standards for digital first. Over to you, Rizwan.
Thank you so much. I think if I need to summarize what you just said, right? Digital success will require a digital culture. If there is no digital culture, we'll not possibly able to build the digital first organization. That's the key. So if I need to just extend my question, right, and generally I've seen this as part of my experience also, right? In a way, whenever we go for such initiatives, we come across a lot of barriers, right? And most of these barriers could be cultural barriers, right? So maybe my question to all the panelists would be, right, in a way, how to handle, right, those cultural barriers at times which we come across, because as we heard everyone saying, right, people are the key here whenever we are doing any such initiatives. So how to handle those barriers, right? Anyone would like to chime in on that?
Yeah.
Avinash.
People being people and us, we are all resisting change.
Right.
And today we are in really volatile environment. People are worried about their jobs. People are worried about the futures. Business are worried about the business. I mean, look at it, there is total uncertainty. On top of it, we have a pandemic running loose. So the environment is really volatile. And in that context, what is required is to generate awareness, create that change. The culture is going to be, you maybe have autocratic culture, you may have a focus, dictatorial culture, whatever. But the primary thing, the entire stuff can only be changed by getting more and more awareness on various aspects, giving that assurance. Hey, look, if you're changing, whatever training you need, we will provide. Hey, look, whatever this changes, we'll reskill you. Whatever this happening, we'll take care of you. Finally, it's the people in the culture. So if you don't take care of that aspect, where you assure them, take care of them, no kind of digitalization is going to work. Finally, everybody is interested in what's in it for me. And you have to ensure this at each layer of your organization to really address this culture part.
I would like to add here, I think the decision to make change coming from top to bottom is what can change everything for everyone is. And I think the moment the culture decides that we have to change and we will be able to change. Post pandemic, we were not sure that we will be doing virtual meetings, but today everyone is doing it. That's because the situation has arisen and everyone has learned it. Earlier, when the pandemic started, everyone was like, how will we work? But today, everyone knows how to work from home. It's about making a decision and moving towards a change. Nothing else can make the change else.
Absolutely.
One more point I have.
Yes, please.
I think the vendor diversity is also playing a big role. If you look at it today, see the point of vendor diversity, a little bit of freedom to work. Workplace can be defined as a flexible approach. So these are some of the things that can be, equally weighed into a available solution to an employee. It basically works out very positively. I would say that probably in this particular role of a culture, HR plays a very big role.
Right.
Over to you, Rizwan.
No,
+1 to you, Mr. Patel.
I think if I may need to summarize, right, how to overcome some of those cultural barriers, right, as all the panelists said, right. we need support from the top. I mean, all these stakeholders, COEs, right? They should provide all the top-down support so that people are maybe ready to take risk, right? And they try to fail fast and maybe learn from their mistakes, right? And at the same time, they become successful. Another thing, right, as all the panelists said, is removing some kind of silos, right? In a way, when we are working, right, together, we should work as a team, right? And maybe not think that, okay, this is part of that team or this is not my part or something like that. Everyone needs to work in a more collaborative manner. And if we bring that culture within the organization, I think that's going to be the key, right? I have heard a lot of uh, famous people say in past, right? If I need to quote an example, a lot of you might have heard about Netflix CEO Reed Hastings, right? So he said way back in 2017, great workplace is not espresso, lush benefits, or sushi lunches. According to him, great workplace is stunning colleagues. Because if we create a company culture which is built on self-driven, high-performing individuals, right, automatically that culture is going to transform your organization, right, into a digital-first organization, which is what is needed in these unprecedented times. So with that, I'll move to my next question, right, which is very, very pertinent, right, looking at what is happening everywhere in terms of shortage of digital competencies, right? Or maybe people with right skills. So my question to Avinash is how to build digital competencies in our workforce to meet needs of our digital first organization.
Okay. So as I was mentioning earlier, the volatile VUCA world, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, uh, in this process change, technology change, landscape change, people change. Where is it? Humans are the key to the digital first and the most overlooked aspect of digital transformation. Because anything which changes requires retraining, training, hand holding, and taking it ahead. And it does not only imply to the workforce, it implies across to your customer, to your employees, your management, your tech team. So when we say digital competencies, primarily people talk about digital skill sets and limited to IT. But here, when I'm talking about digital virtualization of the business, it flows across the enterprise. And by that, I mean to say the complete workforce need to rethink and rebuild their competencies, especially if you're looking at how am I going to train up and handle the new processes. They need training, that they need to build those competencies. Uh, Excluding few IT companies and the leaders, I mean, the general companies are really way beyond. They are struggling still. And in that context, I remember one during our cloud initial days, somebody was saying, "Are cloud में data upload करना है मतलब आसमान में कहाँ भेजना है?" So that kind of environment is still there now. When some we talk about digitalization, a lot of people at ground really don't understand what we're trying to do, and that's most critical for digital transformation. From grassroots level to the top, you need to have competencies built. It requires like how my interaction in the end customer, how is my happening, like if it's happening on e-commerce, what is he looking at, what is the content I can give, that needs to be looked at. You cannot have the same old brochure printed 10 years back going ahead working in a new e-commerce environment. You need to relook at the dynamic refreshing audiovisual content and how can I contribute to that. That's required. The critical design thinking is required because your UX user experience is important because they are no more taking care in face to face. That's happening on a virtual world. So if you are not having a good user experience, you will not have a very good, and it's not the job of a UX engineer. It's a job across the enterprise, right from every person involved has to give inputs and build his competencies thinking in those lines. Those are things which are needs changes. Internal workforce, they need to really think of how am I going to do these processes. More important for the organization, what are the security parameters they're going to handle. Today also we have so many bank phishing scams going around, and when you're dealing with data with enterprises, you need to be extra aware because now it's state sponsored security terrorism which is going on. I mean, just imagine having a malware attack, you will be out of business in crores of rupees within just hours. So, and that all depends on, how are people trained, what together they can security. So security awareness competencies is across from top to bottom. You cannot have a senior manager sharing, "Arey, mera jara password simple rakho ya type kar do." I mean, all those things are going to impact the digital transformation. So saying that, what primarily is required in building these competencies, senior leaders need to act like architects and advocates of your digital transformation of this competency. Competency has to be built into by HR across as a talent life cycle. It cannot be only one IT department or few people here and there. It is across. Innovation has to be promoted. Agile innovation is to be promoted. So for that, agile thinking has to be there. Do you have a critical thinking trainings for your employees? Because that's must today if you're trying to innovate, change a business model. That competency is missing. Learning has to become personalized. And education institutions are to be engaged as critical partners, which is more and more important now than any time before. And talent functions to take the leadership role as a digital talent transformation is a must. So I think these are the few parameters which you should look at for building digital competencies.
Absolutely, Avinash. I think those are some important and pertinent things, right, which we all need to follow, right, if you want to build digital competencies and digital skills which are needed to build digital first organizations. And as I'm hearing, right, as you said in your inputs, kind of everyone is part of the L&D department now, right? They need to contribute, right? Maybe be a senior person, a mid-level person, or possibly someone who is joining your organization with no experience, prior experience, but they bring in some specific skills, right, out of the door, right? Because they're from new generation, maybe working on new technologies. I see, Meheriar, you want to add something to this? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so Rizwan, another point is that this is no longer a IT or a digital team goal. This is basically an organization goal.
Absolutely.
Digital first is an organization goal. And when we talk about organization goal, this is discussed at the board level. And these points, whichever we are discussing today, is that this is a differentiator value in terms of earning for the company, in terms of differentiating for the company, and the whole workforce is aligned to this type of a working. So I think we need to understand that this is holding the topmost priority for all of us and discussed at the very top level. Thank you.
No, absolutely. I think you made a very valid point. Everyone needs to be involved, right? Otherwise, this is not going to work. The digital competencies need to be built at all levels. Everyone needs to assume that, okay, they need to be the digital first citizens of the organization, right? Contributors to the organization. That is very, very important. Now I'll go back to Rupesh. Rupesh, we have a very, very pertinent question, right? We generally, the business stakeholders, right? Since they're making a lot of investments around building digital first organization, they have, right? That in a way, how do you measure success of your digital first initiatives? You know, sometimes these initiatives are long-term initiatives. So how do we measure success? What is the ROI which can be measured?
Yeah, so 2 points over here. First, we discussed when Priyanka shared about top-down approach. In that, one thing I would like to add is about walk the talk. So many times initiatives are top-down, but people at very senior level, the behavior, how they behave in the old traditional way. So that has to change, because down the line, people see whether whatever has been communicated is actually in the right spirit and letter and spirit it is being done. Secondly, the question which you asked about how to measure. At the end of the day, for every business, it is improving the profitability and higher revenues. So that is the ultimate goal, because most of the stakeholders and shareholders will believe in that. But to achieve this goal, the digital interventions are being taken at different levels in terms of process enhancements, in terms of creating new products and services, and at a very higher level, if we had to say, coming up with a digital platform, in a platform as a service kind of a thing, if you can come out. So it depends upon the maturity of the organization, and two ways. Sometimes you reduce the cost or cut down cost, your profitability increases. Sometimes you take initiatives, your number of transactions, interactions with customers, volume of sales increase, ultimately your revenue increases. Another element is everybody spoken about that, is customer experience. So customers should see your product or service very much attached to you. And in terms of not only during the life cycle of a product, but once the recycle or refresh of that product has to happen, if that you are able to retain that customer, that is again a great thing. And for that to happen, your omni-channel experience, whether the customer interacts with you in a traditional way, whether it interacts over a app, whether it interacts over a website, the experience should remain same. And whatever transactions have happened with that customer in the past, when whatever channel I am interacting with that customer, somehow mechanism should be in place that those transactions are captured, and my intelligence should be there when I speak to the customer and he understands that yes, I know him in out all my transactions in the past and I am not starting from scratch. This gives a different kind of a experience to the customer. So broadly, if you have to see, customer experience is at the end is very, very important. But customer experience cannot come unless until we have the right kind of employee experience. So you have to join these two hands in hand. Second, wherever in operational you can bring up the efficiency, the agility, that will help. In terms of the transaction cost should reduce. That is another element. And if it can bring the innovation culture, and innovation does not need to be a big bang innovation always. Even the incremental innovations are many times for the businesses of high value. So everybody has to see how an individual can contribute in this journey in a smaller way. Even the traditional ways of Six Sigma, Kaizen and all this, these were improvement ways. And even these have to be tied up with your latest working of digital platforms, so that everybody is part of that. And that way you can have a right kind of a digital culture and outcomes which are really beneficial to each and every stakeholder in the ecosystem.
Thank you so much, Rupesh. I think that is quite insightful, right? Because measuring success is very important. Now we are towards the fag end of the time allotted to us. There is one audience question, and it's a very, very, what should I say, maybe a very important way to close out this amazing panel discussion today. So the question is, if the panelists were to describe digital first, what be that in their best one-line sentence each? So you just need to describe in one line, what is digital first according to you? Maybe let's start with Avinash.
Yeah. So digital transformation or digital first would be, what is the 10x business model change I have made?
10x business model change. Amazing. Going to Meheriar.
Digital transformation for me and my company would be for the customers and for your employees.
Okay, everything what you are doing is for the customers and for the employees. Amazing. Okay. Going to Priyanka now. What's your one line?
Digital transformation to me will be for the organization first, then for my customers, and then for the growth what we see for ourselves. Everyone needs growth from digital transformation. That's what my looking at it. Digital transformation should bring in growth.
Okay, that's a very pertinent point, right? Growth everywhere, right? And customer satisfaction, your revenues, right? All this stuff.
Yeah.
Rupesh, your one line to build digital first organization.
Yeah, leapfrog. So where you are, you have to leapfrog.
Amazing, right? And anything what you're doing, right? We need to take strides and go forward, right? Amazing. So as you all heard, right? Expert panelists have discussed in today's panel discussion, to survive and thrive, companies will need to rapidly adopt on becoming digital first companies. Organizations that do ultimately grow their customer base, attract the best talent, and build agility to respond to an ever increasing dynamic and disruptive business environment. Digital first organization requires a sea change in the thought process. It means reconsidering every aspect of business, from the tools employees use for the simplest everyday tasks to the entire organizational structure of the company. Being digital first does not mean having all the software tools. It means having the right ones. And in many cases, less can be much more when it comes to technology. By taking a holistic long-term view of the company's digital future, business leaders and CIOs can be smart about the technology they build and adopt in order for becoming digital-first organization. I hope today our experts have helped you all with their expert advice and by sharing their own life experiences so as for you to build your own digital-first organization. Thanks to all the panelists for sharing their experience with all of us and making this panel discussion really lively and insightful. Hope you all have a great rest of the day. Thank you all. This is Dr. Rizwan Ahmed signing off and handing over to Anisha and the event team.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking us through this entire discussion and for all the speakers for weighing in with their ideas. It's good to get all these ideas from all of you.